Thanks for joining us for Political Talk on another PolitiPod Live. Tonight we'll cover a shot with dinner, oily in the morning, this week in failure, and Trump's royal screw up. We'll also have our segments Subpoena Colada and Election Central. I'm Tom Bickle.
I'm Hannah Soldner.
And I'm Matt Nisanoff. We'll start with a shot with dinner. Now, you may have heard about this. There's a whole episode put together by somebody to help support the building of a ballroom, and that contained some a little play that was done over at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and so we found that there was somebody who apparently was armed with several weapons, somehow got through all of the security, both down in the building, got into the building, got up to the floor, never got into the room where the actual dinner was being held, but ran up through security, and then there was a altercation with gunfire, and initially law enforcement told the people in the room in the correspondence dinner that the person had been shot to death, but that was not true. That the person was actually caught, and although we don't know the full circumstances behind what's going on, we know that there's this young guy from California who has said some things that might suggest that he's coming from a particular point of view, and but we don't. I don't know that we have much more detail other than what other media sources are saying. And of course, when Trump made a statement after this incident, this play, that he used it to promote the ballroom and getting funding for the ballroom, although allegedly it has also all been paid in full by donors. Now he wants taxpayer money to go to it to cover the costs. But that's what we learned as the upshot of this passion play. Anyone interested in commenting on the festivities?
Hannah, after you. If I start talking, I'm not sure I'll know when to stop.
All right. I'll jump in. No, I mean it's it's obviously we should wait to hear what the potential gunman said. I think that there's something there. There's always a bunch of speculation that comes from things like this. Is it who planned it, who's behind it? Even though, to be fair, like shootings in our country are not rare, and shootings of controversial figures are not. There's some. Okay, I won't ponder on like motivation. But I do note that it's definitely true that whatever is the source back here, the conservative sides have used it to further their call for a need for a ballroom, even though Matt, as you said, like he got further into security as he should have, but for all intents and purposes, the security stopped him. Nobody died, nobody got shot. So there isn't necessarily an increased need for more security, and if there is, then I don't know if a ballroom is the way to go about it. But in theory, like things worked out as well as they should have, and it's not clear to me that like any additional, I don't know what I haven't looked into the specific security elements of the ballroom because the whole thing seems absurd to me, but there's nothing that would need to be put in there that I think couldn't already be implemented in the current White House correspondence. And also, like, the whole thing is slightly okay. If I didn't know Trump, I would like to say that it's moot because the decision of whether that is needed is not up to the White House to make. It is the people's house. It should be voted and approved on by the proper, through the proper channels. And so, like, it's not clear that a ballroom would have solved this. Even saying that is absurd. Oh yes, like this gunman will surely be stopped by a ballroom. Um, but it doesn't, like, if it is something that is decided to be needed, it should be done through the proper channels. Otherwise, we're just kind of diluting our power and letting the even if it is decided to be a good idea, it should be something that should go through the proper channels. Even though I think it's unnecessary.
So I would like to point out that it's just ridiculous upon ridiculous. The White House Correspondents' Dinner is not the White House's Correspondents' Dinner. It is a group of correspondents who work the White House. This is not a White House owned event. It is not held at the White House. It wouldn't be held at the ballroom if God forbid there ever is a frickin' ballroom in this country. The People's Ballroom, which the people will never ever see in their lives. So the idea that they want to, this is going to be some sort of a solution is 6 vectors of laughable. What I thought was remarkable about this as a cultural event was that a lot of people don't believe this happened. First of all, I found this graphic. I would like to point out the orange and pink dots are about as far as the suspect got. You can see there's some stairs here down into a whole other floor. That's how close he did or didn't get. Was, he wasn't even in the room or on the same level floor. So he got close, but he didn't get that close. He got too close. The video that the administration shared, I think through Trump's Truth Social account, seemed to sure look like me, like a secret service agent shooting another secret service agent in a brief but meaningful circular firing squad. Here he comes, Derek. And some guy goes down. But I don't know. I think they're trying to hold out that.
So what you're saying, if the graphic here, courtesy of our friends at WTOP News,
yes,
show, as you pointed out, there's the orange dot, and then there's the, I don't know what one looks orange to me, one looks kind of
pink. I don't know.
pinkish.
Yeah.
I went with pink.
I'd
blow this up better if I could.
No, this is wonderful. Thank you for getting this, actually, because I had not seen this. But what it shows is that the crisis actor pretending to be attacking was actually never on the same level floor as where the actual event was. So
Right.
when they heard the noise of the gunfire, and there are videos from the inside actually showing Donald Trump looking at a menu or
Right, all kinds of video
looking
from
at
there.
something or talking to someone else while the gunshots are firing and everybody's looking to see where the noise is coming from. He's completely ignoring it and looking at a menu or looking at a small piece of paper in front of his face. But so you're pointing out that the crisis actor was never even on the same level, much less in the room or near the room even.
Right. Yeah, it looks to me to read this map, you'll see these red dots indicating his position at different times. He apprehended there. These curved rectangles to the left of it are the entrances, and they correspond to the lower image here with the football shape. That's the stairs accessing this room, all the way across of which you see the little glimpse of the stage here. That's where the bigwigs are at. So
Gotcha.
about that far away.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
and the video also shows a bunch of uniformed and plainclothes law enforcement officials flooding the room. I mean, they come in from behind the dais and they crawl in front of it and to stand there. And some
Right.
others are doing their part by their jobs, which are to grab the people that are officials and get them out of the room. And they did that. They did that very
Yeah.
well. They did that Within minutes, they had all the officials out. They left all the correspondence in there. If there had been a real attack, then
You're on your
if
own.
someone
Yeah.
actually gotten into the room, the
Yeah.
the people who probably would have been most at risk, of
Best
course,
of
would
luck,
have been
pencil neck.
the correspondence, which
So I mentioned the cultural aspect of this. There's that people didn't really believe. They're like, yeah, right, it's another staged, phony thing. And there's been some backlash. Like there's some independent media people. I think we've all leaned into. We can't take CBS's word for things anymore, so we start to reach out and see who's speaking the truth out there on the internet. And somebody I catch is Jeff Newton. He writes from the Writer's Cabin on Substack, and he's also got a Facebook where this graybeard catches him. And he came on, and he was a little scolding. He was, he's like, "Come on, people! This isn't fake. It's real." And he ticked through all these different facets of it that proved its, legitimacy as a real act, not a put on. But he was a little, he was a little exasperated about it. He introduces himself on every video. So he's a ex 60 Minutes producer, done a war correspondence all over the all those scary places on the planet. And now he runs a little mini cabin thing in the woods in Virginia. But he started putting out these videos, I don't know, within the last month or two, maybe 3 or 4 recently though. Anyway, and he rebelled against this, because people are getting pretty casual about saying, it's fake. And he was pretty, if he seemed sort of offended by it. He's usually pretty level-headed, and he still was, but he was passionate about it. He's like, come on, guys, we can't, you can't just start doubting reality. And anybody who's been paying attention to this administration, painfully, it's all of us, that this administration, there's nothing they won't lie about. They lie just for the exercise of lying, so that you don't catch them telling the truth and figure out what their face looks like when they do it. And they lie so much that, and I want to say back to this sentiment that, this administration has been lying to us in volumes. Washington Post, before their soul rotted out, they tracked how many thousands, dozens of thousands of lies in a year. I think it was 35,000 or 50, whatever it was. Who cares? But these are people who lie this much, and they've completely eroded their believability, their authority, their illusion of integrity, dignity. No one believes what they say. And I want to tell Jeff Newton, not that he has anything to learn from me, but to that sentiment, I want to say that we don't doubt reality. People aren't doubting reality. They're doubting this administration. You can't believe anything they tell you. You can only watch what they do, because they're lying liars who lie all the time. They lie on the inhale. They lie in their sleep. If they learn another language, it will only be to lie in that language. And so, and I would like to point out that we've spent years now in this country being lied at, like being vomited upon, like being urinated on. It's offensive. Nobody wants it or asks for it. It's an assault in its own way. And yeah, the public, if you watch an administration lie like they do, unstopped, with no consequences, with no Congress is buying it, the Supreme Court is buying it, and I feel like it traumatizes us as a society, as a group of people. It wears you down, and because this administration does lie, we know they would lie, and maybe they didn't lie, but it sure looks like bullshit. And in any given number of contexts, this administration has perpetrated. And so, of course, we're going to be broken down as a people. We're going to get, when we do pay attention, it's traumatic. Watching and caring about these people in Minnesota that were killed on the street, these people that are being locked in chain link boxes without hygiene or food or medicine, and they're dying, they're suffering, they're being injured, they're being sexually assaulted. Taking all that in, it wears you down, and it makes you want to look away. I got it. They're bad people. Your brain at some point needs to switch off and go, okay, I got it. And you don't want to tune out, but it's a defense mechanism. I feel like we are. And seeing these people do these things without consequence for so long, what else can you do? You know what I mean? You want to do something. You want the people in positions of power to do something to stop this. Reason cries out for it. And when you don't get it, you have to unclench at some point or your heart will just cease. It'll pop. I feel like it's not good for you. And so seeing these in one way, I think, to deal with that is to go, yeah, it's a put on. He's a lying liar who lies. So listen,
Well, it also is.
public sense of cohesive reality is just one of the many things we can't afford to break that are being broken right in front of our face. Also, I would like to say this, if I may. Can I give you another 45 seconds?
A little bit, yeah.
All
45
right,
seconds.
sorry. I do go on. But Stephen Miller, Stephen Miller has this picture of him and his wife sneaking out with an agent behind them, and he has his hand, unfortunately, on her breast. And everybody's making fun of Stephen Miller, which to me is like making fun of Dracula. You go right ahead. It doesn't hurt my feelings. But the guy is just following his wife in the direction of egress. I'm not. God did. God forsake this universe for making me sound like I'm sticking up for Stephen Miller. I'm not. But he's the only guy in the room, the only Republican in the room that I saw that stuck with his wife and didn't just climb over a table and be carried by a Secret Service agent and leaving your wife in the dust, which several other luminaries did. Good luck, honey. See you at home or not. So at least Stephen Miller, if he'd have, shoved his way out and, into the front like a He-Man, we'd be making fun of that. So, I feel like people making fun of him, using her as a shield. Look, if he's between her and the door, we both got to go. She has to be on one side of him or the other. I don't know if he's using her as a human shield. And again, strike me down for, again, sounding like I'm sticking up for Stephen Miller.
It's a stretch.
Well, yeah, and listen, I'm good. I'm good for going along with something mean about this administration, whether I really full-heartedly believe in it, because they deserve a kick. But I don't know. For some reason, I had to get that off my chest.
Right. Well, right. And you're certainly welcome to an opinion, and that is that's one. And it was true. I mean, RFK Jr. was escorted out with a long row of people behind him, and his wife kept getting pushed farther and farther back in the line. And by the time they got to the place where they needed to climb over a barrier or a table or something, she was just there by herself. She was kind of like going, where?
Just working it out in these heels. I'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. So there were people who did as you said. They thought they were in a situation, and what they did was they looked after themselves in their own hide and didn't particularly care about a spouse or
the
person
first casualty of the correspondence dinner was chivalry.
Right. So fair enough. But we are going to move on to our first segment of the night, and that is what we call Subpoena Colada, where we take a minute to look at some things that are happening in the law enforcement world and justice adjacent. I'm going to say justice adjacent.
I love it.
Is that okay? Justice, yeah, okay. And the big issue has been AI lately. That's seen a lot of action in the courts. Hannah, what do you think? What have you heard about AI and the law?
There's a lot of sorry, my dog is upset in the other corner. Well, so most recently, Elon Musk has taken Sam Altman, who's the head of OpenAI, to court. And Sam Altman, if you don't know about OpenAI, the whole original idea is that they were like a nonprofit open AI. And they're shifting very much more into being for profit. They're about to do an IPO. And so Elon Musk, I'm assuming under the guise of like sticking it to this corrupt guy, is taking him to court over it. I'm going to guess the real chance is that he wants to be the corruptest boy around, and so he's using this to like easily eliminate a competitor.
Yeah, he's probably got his own little AI project. He probably calls it Elon Eye, and he
It's
probably
called
wants
Prof
to
AI.
clear the deck. Right, exactly, and he wants to clear the decks for it. So he's just going after Altman because he thinks he's going to get his little cut into the market that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll see. Well, if he goes to court, then hopefully both sides will revel in the discovery process, where you have to dig into the other people's information and you get to ask and get and receive communications and emails and all sorts of private materials that would not be public otherwise. So if they're really gonna put their law, uh, if they're really gonna put the law into action, then that would be the way to do it. And we should find out some very interesting things, especially when it comes to what was it, $1.2 trillion was the Altman plan, or was part of Altman's thing. So big time money, big time futuristic issue of AI, and of course, you got to have Elon in the mix, or he'll make
Yeah.
himself part of the mix.
I love
So
how much relish you took in the discovery potential. You're basically rubbing your hands together with glee.
bring it on.
I didn't know you're so messy, Matt.
Well, you haven't sued me yet,
Right? Let's keep that energy going.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that is, I mean, that's the big thing. Both of them would surely have material with which they should have their comeuppance from. And the only way that it can be accessed, I think, is probably through discovery. So, yeah, let's see how it plays out. Let's see if they really want to do it or not, and if it comes to that part of the trial, whether they follow through or not. Okay. Also, I know that in the legal world, there's a whole issue of returning firing squads to use in American. I don't want to call it justice. What do we want to call it?
Legal system.
Legal system. Thank you. In the American legal system, they want to return the firing squad because, they like it. They like the idea. They like that it's old timey. They like that it's something that sounds tough. I mean, the Department of Defense, the whole thing with their being nicknaming themselves the Department of War because it sounds cool. And, you can trade for better soldiers, or, the little plastic soldiers you used to trade for when you were a kid, Hegseth gets to do that for real now with human bodies. So that whole idea of being tough and sounding tough and wanting to do things that sound tough, I think that's where that firing squad thing is coming from. I don't know that it's going to do anything particularly for justice, but there it is. What do you guys think?
I mean, my inclination is that it is barbaric. I don't know if there's any non-barbaric forms of execution, so maybe that's not a good enough. It should be a good enough reason, but I don't know if it is going to be a good enough reason for the average. I don't know if there's an alternative we can find other than to stop executing people. But yeah, I think that there's something. First of all, I discovered the reason my dog is sad is because my roommate went to get cake at our neighbor's birthday, and he's upset that he doesn't get cake. Anyway, I think that there's something. I think that Trump and his ilk like the theatrics of it. You get out your guns and you line up, and there's a big boom, and then you see blood and a body. How they probably think it's like a movie or whatever. And they've already sort of dehumanized these people. Like they're not trying to go back to some other thing. They want the spectacle of it. They want the idea of this person committed a crime, and like we're all going to watch them pay for it. I'm sure they would draw and quarter people if they could. So I just think that they like the spectacle of it.
I think they're in the business of being publicly crude and cruel, and that's all they've got. What are they going to do? offer solutions to life's problems, society's ills. This is not that. This is not that clan. This is not that group. So yeah, I think it's easy to be the booger flicking loudmouth on the public's dime, and we're all on a burning ship in the middle of the ocean.
Well, here's a couple of things that have.
Now,
Yeah, here's another couple of things that they've done. The Comey indictment. They even finally got another indictment against uh, James Comey, and this time it's the real hardcore crime stuff. This is he took a picture of some seashells,
by the seashore.
and yeah, and so you can understand why they went after him. I mean,
I
can't
mean,
just go around taking
man's
pictures
got a
of
shell,
seashells.
for Pete's sake.
Yeah. Now the shells were forming the letter or the numbers 8647, which is a expression that's been used to 8647, meaning that
To
basically
what? Get rid
to
of.
to trash more than to get rid of. Get rid of could allow for an interpretation that might allow for someone to try to assassinate someone, right? So
Sure.
the reality is, like in a restaurant
Right.
terminology, when they don't have something that you want to order, the staff, the waiters and waitresses will tell each other 86 the turkey breast dinner or whatever it is. We don't have it anymore. We can't offer it. 86 it. No more. Don't talk about it. It's you're removing it from the offerings. You're not talking about it. So all this 8647 means is that you don't want to talk about 47 anymore. You want to get rid of it. It's belongs in the
Oh,
trash.
yeah.
Time to go.
Something that you
It's
get
already
rid of.
in the trash, as you guys have been pointing out in every statement you've made tonight. These are people who are who are working from the trash can. They're working from the depths of garbage, and so okay, there they are, and it's time to move on. It's time to go with the stuff that we can have that will actually do, maybe even do good things, but certainly will not go out of their way to constantly do the wrong thing and to constantly do the thing that will cause the most harm to somebody just because they're not you. But so, I mean, there's interpretations, I guess, different interpretations that are out there. But Comey says that this was not something that he organized. He didn't maneuver the shells into that. He said he was walking on a beach in North Carolina. He saw it on the side. He thought it was something that he could take a picture of and put up on Instagram. None of that is a crime. And frankly, even if he did put the shells in the order of the numbers, that's not a crime either. That's covered by what's called the First Amendment thing we
I've
used
heard
to
of it.
have. Don't worry about it. And
Right.
but it means that it's not. There's securing an indictment over this through the Justice Department probably says more that there's a problem with the Justice Department than that there's something the matter with what James Comey took a picture of. Also, another good one that's happened within the last week or so is the trumped up charges against the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, were dropped. And that was because that was absolute nonsense, like the rest of this, like the rest of the things they've done. And just like this indictment of Comey is, and just like, whatever, take whatever thing they took to the court last time or the last 150 times or however many times they've gone to the courts for the last few years. And it's just another sort of trash thing that happened. And good for Jerome Powell. It's good that that they dropped the charges against him. And I hope that he's, someone who has, if he has something that he would like to say, love to have him on the show. Love to have Jerome Powell. I will say that publicly. Jerome Powell or staff, if you are listening, we would like you to come on our show and say what you think about the indictment being dropped and what you think about the people who did it.
I want to point out that when you push back against Trump, you tend to win. When you fold, then he just wants more and more. And I don't know why people don't realize that yet, or at least not enough.
Excellent point. Excellent point. I think with his being a lame duck, some Republicans might start to figure that out. But we'll
Not a
see.
minute too soon.
We'll see. Yeah.
If
Oh
and
no,
when.
no, way too late.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
10 years too late. But there you jolly well are, aren't you? Speaking of being well, there are oil wells to talk about. So let's talk about the things that matter. Oily in the morning, word has arrived that the UAE has 86th OPEC.
How dare they?
And you see, now they haven't gone out and murdered OPEC. They've just said they don't want to be a part of it anymore, and they're removing themselves from the organization. So they've 86th themselves from the OPEC conglomerate of nations, and it's some people are saying they're very shocked about this and that it's a new twist to something that, well, it is something that happened just now, but the UAE has said they want to do this for years. This is not a new thing. It's not something they just came up with because of the war, because of the Iranians firing missiles at them. They have said this for a number of years, and that's because OPEC sets quotas, and it has their members only pump so much gas from their fields, and then they have to stop. And UAE has always said, well, we can do a lot more, and we're really not happy about being told to stop. We'll do it because we're members, but we really don't want to. We really don't want to. And so now there's an opening here because of the Iranian war that they can disassociate from OPEC, and they will benefit from it. They will, produce or overproduce and start selling gas at a cheaper price. Probably, I mean that's what you would expect that they'd want to do to get things out, moving and out there. But OPEC as an organization, the person or the nation that benefits the most from it is Saudi Arabia. So this is the UAE throwing a curve to the Saudis, not to the Iranians. So this idea that people have only have heard a lot more about the UAE and about the Middle East because of the war that's going on with Iran or whatever the hell we're calling it. I don't know. Are we up to calling it a police action yet? I don't know. Maybe a war. I don't know. Whatever it is that we are engaged with.
War.
Yeah, right. So the Persian kerfuffle that has been started by Trump is not. This is not what is getting the UAE to act. They may be doing it now because they feel there's an opportunity, but they've been saying it for years. They want to be able to produce more and not be restricted, and so that's we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. The price of oil has been going up. It will continue to go up as long as the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and for a period after it opens, because clearing it out is going to take a bunch of time too. And people can like that or not like that, but that's what's going to happen. That's the truth of it. So, anything about the UAE? Anything? Anybody have any holdings in Dubai?
I just divested. Close one. I had an inside tip. I'm one of them Sunday afternoon betters. I'm up 30 million. You can tell because I'm on time for this podcast.
I can't even have pistachio, so I can't even enjoy their fancy chocolates.
Damn it.
So I have nothing
my only
invested
hope.
over there. I know.
Fair enough. Well, and let's bring one other thing into the whole discussion since we're doing it anyway, and that is that we may have a little bit more of a discussion about this, or I don't know, maybe now is the time. Well, I think we'll talk about it a little bit later also, but I did want to mention just in this section about King Charles from the United Kingdom came to America. He made a speech He gave a speech before the joint session of Congress and mentioned the things like the legislature is supposed to be a check and balance against the executive. And so he's given a little reminder of some of the things they were supposed to do. The irony of the British king having to remind the American legislature that it's supposed to stand up against the strong executive certainly is not entirely lost in this whole thing. But somebody had to say it, and he did. So perhaps some of these folks who are Republicans who claim that they have great grievances and concerns about what's happening, but have never actually said anything or ever acted in that way through legislation and what has happened with their playing the role of oversight in the purse and how departments get their money and how people are appointed to positions. Maybe they'll pick up on that now. If they have King Charles okay, they can the Republicans can step forward and do their actual jobs. I mean,
Yeah,
the Republicans.
having the king come and remind the rebels how to be rebels and run their own country this side of corruption and grift and political meltdown. The
Yeah,
ironies and the indignities abound.
well, and he had the Republicans applauding concern over climate. Got that?
I missed that part of the speech, but that's not bad. I don't know how
Yeah.
he got on the clap for that, but whatever. It's not like anything they say or do means anything. So
Right. Well, that's
I mean,
certainly
I'm sure the how is because they're more sycophantic than they are, believers in whatever of their policies are.
that's a good one. That's a good point. They just want to clap for the guy who's the strong guy, or the king, or the authority figure. Sure looks that way. Let's see what they actually do, and we'll talk more about Charles in a little bit. But for now, I wanted to see if we could shuffle off to election land. So if we can move things on to Election Central, that's brought to you by both PolitiPod and Election Central. And there's been some things happening in Virginia. You may have already heard they had a referendum on should they redistrict early or should they do a mid redistricting, like several other states have. And they took the smart way of like California, and they made it a referendum to the voters, to let the voters have a say in it. And the voters said, "Yeah, we do." And the Republicans said, "No, no, you don't. You just don't understand."
yeah, shut up. You there, hush.
So one of the Republican officials complained, and the whole thing's going to the Virginia Supreme Court. We have no idea what the Virginia Supreme Court's going to say. Probably.
I thought that had come out and the Virginia Supreme Court had swatted that down. I could be crazy.
Well, you could be crazy, but it is also possible that you are correct about
Those are two different things.
the
Let's be
Virginia
honest.
Supreme Court decision coming out. Well, I tell you what, let's see what we can do about checking on that. And while we're talking, while we're doing some background checks on that, I would also mention one of the reasons I mentioned it was because the state of Florida is next up in that little, whatever you want to call it, shenanigans about redistricting, and they're, you know, Florida is such a more extreme case than Virginia. You've got a governor who's just desperate to do it to get it done. You've got people like Texas where you've got enough of an ownership of the legislative and executive branch of the state government that it's not like it's going to be an argument. So DeSantis has drawn up something to purge the Democrats, and the legislature looks like it's already passed it, or that they're certainly not going to get in the way of what DeSantis wants. and they're most certainly not going to leave it up to the voters. You can believe that. Okay. Let's take just a minute here and see if.
I would like to point out the Virginia Supreme Court. I looked it up per the Hill as of 10 hours ago. The Virginia Supreme Court will allow a lower court order temporarily blocking the Commonwealth from certifying the results of a redistricting referendum to remain in place, dealing a blow to Democrats who sought to challenge the ruling. So I thought this had come out the other way. I don't know what I had read maybe 24 hours ago. I thought I'm surprised at this.
Well, they ditched responsibility. So, but I mean, they also did exactly what the Republicans wanted them to do, was to try to find a way to stop it. So
Yes, terrible.
they did their
How
job.
can you have a vote and then just to nullify it because you don't like the way it came out? That's what it seems. That's what I'm getting. Is that not what I'm seeing?
No, I mean, I agree with you. And like broadly, I feel like some of the reasons we have all these branches of government is because we can't have a popular vote on everything. But theoretically, a popular vote should be above everything if the people vote on it.
Yeah, if a vote isn't legal, you shouldn't hold it. If there's something wrong with the integrity or the outcome that it if it goes one way or the other, it won't be legal. Then you shouldn't not vote on that in the first place.
Right.
I don't know. I'm mystified, but disappointment is part of politics, and
Let's see what
paying
happens with it.
to reality.
And also, Hannah, had you mentioned? I think you'd mentioned something about the Voting Rights Act and the other Supreme Court, the Supreme Court of the United
Yes.
States.
So the Supremist Court, as everyone calls it, and this is also sort of interesting. It's sort of about redistricting. So in Louisiana, they had redrawn a district to give. So they have one majority minority district in Louisiana, and they redrew it to have two. And people put a stop to that, and they sued because they said that that's disenfranchising black voters. And I guess what the rule came back was you can disenfranchise black voters or other minority racial group voters as long as you don't say it's specifically about them, but you're just doing it so that you get more votes. And part of that argument was that people of races vote all kinds of ways, and it's becoming more diverse all the time. So yeah, so basically, as long as you don't explicitly say you're doing it for race, but you're doing it just because you want to win more votes, then you can dilute voting power as long as it's, just to help you out.
That sounds. I mean, that sounds like the Supreme Court.
Yeah. So the voting. Elena Kagan wrote the dissent. It split along ideological lines. Kagan wrote the dissent, and she read it on the floor, which is pretty rare in the Supreme Court, unless you're like strongly being like, "Hey, WTF." And she said that the voting rights. She called out her colleagues that they've been trying to dilute the Voting Rights Act for 20 years, and she said this is like basically the last piece of it. In theory, I mean, like it's still the letter of the law that you cannot vote to oppress a minority based on race, but you can vote to oppress a minority based on apparently anything else. So yeah, and so yeah, it's not looking good, and they have to they imagine that this is going to be related to a lot of other redistrictings as they come up to people to redistrict, and it's definitely going to be part of this, like all these states, be it Florida or Virginia or Texas or California or before them, like all doing like, oh, it's become this like weird tit for tat, like we'll just redraw until we get the most numbers. And now that's going to become even easier.
Well, that will work out well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, moving on. We're going to shuffle off to our next issue, which is This Week in Failure, which of the issues that we'll sort of briefly mention in this section, there is the benefit of preventing Viktor Orban from being able to create a failure of acknowledgement of the Ukraine. Viktor Orban, leader in Hungary for 16 years. The fact that Hungary is part of the EU, the European Union, and the European Union has been trying to support Ukraine in its war that the invasion Russia has made of Ukraine, and trying to move Ukraine into the EU, basically, becoming a member. And the big blockage point, the big point of failure in it happening has been Viktor Orban. He's the one who votes on behalf of his nation to prevent the Ukraine from getting military support because he doesn't want to see his friend Putin harmed, and he's stopped them from joining the EU because he doesn't want to see them pulled further away from his friend Vladimir Putin. But he's out now, so he lost. He's out. He's out the door. And the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has said that it won't be instant, but they are going to be moving forward with bringing Ukraine into the European Union, and that there's even some steps that could happen without the official start occurring, that he wants to encourage Ukraine. So that's good news, actually. Victor's failure is a benefit to, well, everyone, really, to the world, certainly to Ukraine. J.D. Vance's failures. Boy, where to start? Well, we all know that he failed to get a ceasefire with Iran when he went to Pakistan. And Trump wants to show that he still doesn't take him seriously. So instead of J.D. Vance, he's sending he wanted to send Jared Kushner and the U.S. envoy to Pakistan for the next set of talks with Iran. He even announced it. He had a big announcement about how Jared and the envoy were on their way. And the problem was that Iran had never agreed to the next set of talks happening. So while Trump was promoting this set of talks and who he was sending and how he's going to get them there and all this, there weren't any actual talks because there was no actual other side showing up. So there's a failure, and that's another failure on Trump's ticket. Also, a United States Army sergeant who had helped plan the invasion of Venezuela and some other military actions, also the capturing of Maduro and other actions. He had been using the information after he helped plan things to go make bets. You know, there's this new system out where you can bet on anything because it's not betting, it's predicting. So they're the predicting markets, not the gambling market.
Wow.
So you can bet on anything you want to.
Adam and Eve didn't know fig leaves that well.
Yeah, exactly. yeah, exactly. Yeah, and here's a guy who was in on the planning of those things, and then he made predictions about them and bet money. And a U.S. official, or an official over this this sergeant, was later quoted as saying, "The world is a casino." So apparently, it's okay that this was done, but it's really not. And he was caught, and there's going to be a problem, and it's one of his own making. So we'll see what happens. Or unless any of you heard anything else, update on this sergeant.
I haven't heard any updates on this, but I did want to clarify that, not only was he involved in the planning and then bet it happened, but he won $400,000. It was a lot of money. And then, Tom, to add to your exasperation, this isn't technically betting, but even their social media and whatever calls it betting. even though it's not betting, because they're like, well, it's still like, isn't every time you wager a bet? It's still not officially a bet, so that we're not, so that you can use our prediction markets in all 50 states and some districts. But it's not legally a bet, but we're still going to call it a bet, which is really impressive linguistic
Right.
absurd.
Sure, why not? Well, I bet that's not the last we've heard of that story. I hope it certainly is. Hey. I
Hi-oh.
certainly hope it is a real problem for him. I really hope that 400,000 costs him so much more, and that he has to actually be held accountable. Speaking of people who should be held accountable, gosh, anyone come to mind? I think that maybe there you go. Trump's royally screwed up again. And this has a couple of things here with the royal visit of King Charles. We mentioned before about his speech and said we'd come back to it. Well, here we are. We're going to come back.
We're
to it.
back, baby.
And we're back, Chucky. And it is so. Trump has a habit of trying to steal the limelight from everyone at any time, in any way, and
Habit. Pathology might be a better term. He has a constitutional need. It is part of his bones, right down to the spurs. Yeah. His Royal Majesty and her Royal Highness paid us a visit and touched down in Washington and came out to do all the glad handing and the pomp and the circumstance and the hey. And one of them includes a line, as happens with dignitaries, you walk down a line of people and you shake their hands. And so the king and the queen are making their way down the rope line. And this is Trump's cabinet people they're approaching, shaking their hands, getting a little FaceTime. And anyway, I'll play the video. There's no audio for it. We'll play the video and let it speak for itself.
There really doesn't need to be audio.
Right.
Go ahead.
All right, so you hear Charles and Camilla having a great time. And wait, hey, how you doing? Hi, see you every day. You better get back to work.
Hey, aren't you the guy who brings coffee? Yeah, I think I know you.
What the video doesn't show is that Trump continues on shaking hands such that King and Queen can't even get a handshake in edgewise, and they basically give up. They just drift away, drift off to the, stage left. And he's back there shaking hands with people he sees every week. Like, hey, how you doing? Happy Saturday, whatever it is. And then
So I also want to add, and if for anybody who looks at this and says, oh, well, it's just a thing he did one time. So he got in this line himself and he shook his own employees' hands and, so what? A couple of years ago, Trump went to the United Kingdom. This was when Charles's mother was still on the throne, Queen Elizabeth II, and he did a walk of honor among the elite British troops, so walking down the line, and he did virtually the same thing. He wound up walking around and getting ahead of the Queen and walking so that she was behind him. And later on, I think at one point he grabbed her hand or something and then patted her on the back or something. I mean, all this sort of stuff that is
honked her boobs. It's fine.
Right, exactly. So, everything is so, I guess he just finds that everything is so beneath him that he's just kind of there to have a good time, Hey, I see you work every day. Here, let me come shake your hand before the King of England has a chance to say hello to you.
If it really, it seems like the type of thing a person with dementia would do. But he's always been like this. I keep saying, if he goes crazy, how would we know? And here we are. and he just seems like he can't stand anyone to have the limelight. And if you tell him don't do something,
Right.
it burns within him that he's got to go do it because F you. That's why. I mean, that I don't know what flavor of squirrels are running around inside that little knobby dome of his, but that's what it looks like to me. Is just a pathological need to go, hey, look at me, look at me. I get to walk in front, not you, not you, old lady.
Right, right, exactly.
God
I'm
damn it!
I'm an important person here. Just like when
Right.
he was with the
We're lucky he
the
didn't elbow her into the wall.
well, he did that with one of the leaders, one of the European leaders when they were at one of their
Montenegro,
meetings.
yeah, the
You
United
remember
Nations.
that?
I haven't forgot that. They should
Yeah,
have punched him in the teeth then. Ugh.
exactly, exactly. They're all getting together and they're shaking hands and they're forming up a line, and he like pushes his way through. The guy
They
thinks that
could have
he's,
shoved him down and busted his hip and taught him some manners in the same swoop.
but it's always it's all the same. It's all the same routine. And I'll go, Hannah. Unless you have anything else to add to this, I'll mention one other thing, um, and that is that apparently there was a mix-up early in the event when the King of England was on his way, and apparently along about a half dozen or so of they set up flags. They want to have pomp and circumstance, and they want to show
Yeah,
how close
yeah, because it's
friends.
nice. It's nice if you're a foreign dignitary, you come in and you see, the respect that they have for you because they fly your flag. Go on, please.
Exactly. Yeah, it's an excellent point. It's very good, right on point. I mean, and here's a thing where it's a common courtesy. You do it with every state visit, so if the guy's coming from X country or the gal is coming from X country, you know that you're going to have their flag and you're going to have it set up. And apparently, about a half dozen or so flags were actually the Australian flag that were set up with the American flag to welcome the King of
Hmm.
the United Kingdoms. Now, Australia is part of the Commonwealth. I mean, it was part of England, the United Kingdoms at one point,
They
and
got a little Union Jack in the split screen corner of the flag. If
they
you're a
do.
really stupid person, yeah, you could make that mistake. I could see that happening. If you had some
So
sort of a head injury or traumatic brain damage, you weren't really fit to be among people, but I could see you could do that. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know.
I mean, as you point out, there is a representation of the UK flag as a small part of the Australian flag. So maybe just trying to expand the welcoming, just trying to show that they would welcome anyone from the Commonwealth,
Yeah, yeah, that's very,
except
very diverse of them.
yeah. Actually,
What a schmo.
I can think of one or two people they work very hard to discourage instead of invite from the Commonwealth, but that's for another show. And speaking of shows, I believe that we've gotten to that point in the evening that we are going to check in with the Epstein count up. You may be aware that every show should be making a mention of the Epstein lists and the Epstein files and the release in an unredacted form that has not happened. And even if
What the
there's
hell is
been,
going on with that, by the way? We breeze past this formulaically at the end of every show, and I'm glad you touch upon it. But I'd like to stop for just a moment and stomp my little feet and go, what? We passed a law. All three chambers of government at the federal level passed a law. We said we're going to do it. Sign, stamp, boom. And now what? I mean, we can't even get Pam Bondi to sit down and account for herself. I don't know. It's not happening very fast.
that's true. I mean, they do have a website where you can check names and you can enter the person, anybody's name, and see if they were on the list. So there's that, but
I
still,
want the goods. I want
right,
the stuff they don't want me to want. I want the
right,
stuff they don't want me to see, and I want it right away. That's what the judge said. It's what the law said. Right now,
exactly. And
we're
as you
become
mentioned,
too complacent and patient.
all three branches did pass it. I mean, it got by the House. It was
Right?
bipartisan support in the House.
They acted like
Almost,
they
it
meant it.
was unanimous in the Senate, and even that other branch signed it into law. So it was literally something that
And
was supposed to happen on a specific day. So you're right. You're absolutely right, Tom.
Yeah,
and
and
you
the White
should be
House was
outraged.
saying, "F you, come get it."
Yep. And yet, here we are on day 3,970 since the unredacted Epstein list has not been released once again. So we will keep the count up going as long as we have to. But for both Tom and our sake, let's hope that that one day this won't be necessary. There may be a day when we finally stop the Epstein count up, and
I
we'll
look
have
forward to that glorious day.
Yes, we should all be looking forward to that the to that day. So, thanks for joining us for PolitiPod Live for Political Talk. You're welcome to join us every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here for PolitiPod Live. If you want political laughs, you can join us and a half dozen of our friends for our monthly political comedy podcast, PolitiPod. You'll find it at soundcloud.com/PolitiPod.
This is Tom Bickle.
Hannah Soldner.
And I'm Matt Nisanoff saying goodbye.